It's time for the Your Personal Bank Show with Ernst. In an era of chaos, confusion, and craziness, Ernst is a voice for common sense. As a financial literacy educator, speaker, and entrepreneur, Ernst cuts through the noise to help us understand how current events affect our money, economy, and our freedom. Now, here's Ferenc Toth.
Welcome to the Your Personal Bank Show. This is Ferenc, and if you want to contact me, you can do so at yourpersonalbank.com. And yes, you will reach me. It's yourpersonalbank.com. Well, folks, we're in for a treat today. As you know, I, on occasion, bring somebody in that has an interesting story. I don't interview a lot of people, but on occasion, I bring somebody in. And this is a person, I'm sure none of you know who he is today, but I think after the end of the day, you'll be glad you were listening. And the gentleman's name, the young man, is Ishan Patel. You recently won an award. Can you tell us about, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Ferenc. Long time no see. It's so great to be here with you.
Yeah, and we'll get into the story a little bit of how we know each other, and I think you're going to find quite interesting how we did, but what is the award that you won recently?
So in Entrepreneur of the Year, Ernst and Young does a big competition every year, and I basically won national finalist. I was top 5 emerging businesses in the entire nation, which was really awesome. And then Entrepreneur Magazine actually also named me the top entrepreneur bringing new access to consumer products in sort of a healthcare fashion with the hearing aid company.
Congratulations, by the way. That's awesome, Ishan.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And
yeah, at 29, I think I was definitely the youngest guy in the whole competition, let alone one of the winners. So it was a big honor.
Yeah, that is a big deal. That's a really big deal. When your dad told me about that and I heard about it, I'd say, oh gosh, I got to reach out to Ishan because we've known each other for a long time.
We have.
We've worked together.
Years. We have, yeah.
And, we haven't seen each other in a few years. I thought, gosh, let's catch back up and tell you a little bit, share your story and all that. So I guess, first of all, how we met, I don't know if you even know this part of the story, Ishan, but I met your dad, obviously, initially. He's a naturopathic type of medical practitioner, I guess.
Yep.
And I went in to see him, and he did a great job taking care of myself and my family, by the way, over the years. But it was funny, that very first time I met with him, he asked me what I did for a living. And I told him, I help people create, tax-free income, insured, guaranteed, tax-free, all that stuff. And we use a concept you called the personal bank, your personal bank. He just lit up. Oh my gosh, I've been researching that for the last year or two. I was getting ready to invest in that. And I've been looking for somebody to work with. And that's how we got started.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And then, of course, we got to know each other well and actually became family friends. And that's how we met. I don't remember the first time you and I actually met.
Yeah, so we met. I think Dad was coming into your office at the time because he was starting to work with you and also starting to get licensed himself. And he was like, he knew that I was interested in different sales opportunities. Like in college, I started the sales organization at ASU, which went on to become a nationally winning organization. And he thought you'd be a really good person that I could talk to and learn from. So that actually was funny because it was my first real job, I would say.
Right.
I've been working since I was younger, but getting licensed, right?
Right.
I think I was the youngest agent. They said when we went to that awards ceremony, they told me I was the youngest they'd ever had because I had just turned 18, right, which is the legal age required. And so you were really my first sales mentor and coach, actually. So it's funny because those things that you taught me and that we really worked on together have carried me quite far, I would say, now to this day. And a lot of those same principles really apply. And I have my own personal bank still that I'm putting money into and growing every year.
That's awesome, Isha.
So it's funny, that's the origin of it all is actually the personal bank. So the name of this show is quite fitting.
Exactly. And I remember when I reached out to you, he was like, oh my gosh, I'm so busy right now. And we're going to share a little bit about your story today. But for you, I'll make the time. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. I've been getting a lot of interview requests, actually. And this is the only one I took this month. So just because with the business and with everything that's going on, it really is crazy. Now that I can say I understand how people are working kind of 24/7. And when you love it, it doesn't really feel like work anymore. It's more like a mission or for a fun goal. So
well, now you understand why I've been an entrepreneur basically most of my life.
Yep, absolutely. I remember you talking to me about it, and the concept of even owning my own business when I was young was not really something anyone talks about.
Right.
And entrepreneurship, although my dad has that, and I'm really grateful to him, he brought that spirit up in me.
Sure.
In my family, in my greater family, it's all medical professionals, right? We're Patels, lots of doctors.
Right. I've met many of them.
Yes, yeah, many of them. So
you went to a very prestigious business school.
mm-hmm.
Yet they didn't really teach you entrepreneurship.
No, I actually dropped out. I don't know if
Yes,
I think I told you that, right? Yeah. So
Yeah.
not that loved the program, met a lot of great people, met one of my co-founders and some of my greatest friends there. So I think
Sure.
it's super valuable from a social perspective. But yeah, from a professional perspective, I was just not feeling like I was getting it. And, this is one of the top business programs in the country as well. So I switched to being an engineer and then, went through the engineering program and thought, what am I doing here? I'm not looking to be a kind of a salaried professional on the engineering side. And that's where I ultimately left school to pursue entrepreneurship.
Put it in more direct terms, I said, if you get an advanced degree, you're just a higher paid worker monkey.
Yeah, that's the right way to put it, honestly. It's very true.
Yes.
So.
And when I was sharing that, I've been sharing that for years, decades even now,
Mm-hmm.
it was probably before its time. Now it's becoming kind of more common, with stuff you hear Elon Musk saying, et cetera.
Absolutely.
Where people are realizing maybe getting a degree or an advanced degree might not be the best course.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm a big proponent of that myself, having gone through the process and coming from a super strong academic background, which I think was necessary partially for me to get to learn the ability to learn, right?
Sure.
But then the school of hard knocks is where you really figure out how to do things.
I agree. Going to college to learn stuff and all that, that's great. But you're not going to learn how to become a business owner, an entrepreneur. And I remember my story when I had my first business challenge and I had a failure, actually. My mentor at that time said to me, well, congratulations, Ferenc. You now have your master's in business administration through the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, isn't that the truth, man? I have, since we last saw each other, or really since I started this journey, it was just really failure after failure. And I always say to people who ask me now, hey, if I wanted to start a business or go in that direction, I say, fail fast, fail hard, fail forward. And you're not one win away from your big success. You're one loss away actually from it. So
Right.
That's how I've always kind of felt. And definitely it's what I've experienced for most of the time until
Yes.
recent years where I finally kind of found something that worked.
That's awesome. And that is kind of the story of how just about every entrepreneur, including myself, you learn far more from your losses or your mistakes than you do from the wins
Absolutely.
and the successes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we celebrate the successes and they're great and they're fun, no question, but you learn in those tough times.
Definitely. Absolutely.
If nothing else, like my mentor back then said, hey, at least he said, the School of Hard Knocks will teach you lessons you'll never forget.
Mm-hmm.
You won't repeat that same mistake.
Absolutely. Yeah. So true.
That's awesome. So tell me, so you worked with us for a while in our company, like you said, you did the personal bank stuff, and then I know you kind of, from that point, kind of moved on. What happened then?
Yeah, wow. The story is a bit crazy, I suppose, but so are all interesting founder stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, after working with you, I ultimately left school to work on an AI company at the time with the guy you knew actually that I
Yes.
met because of
Yes.
our work together.
I remember.
So went that direction, and let's just say it was a crazy experience, right? Lots of pain and suffering. The School of Hard Knocks was ever present in that environment. He was a really intense mentor and individual, as again you experienced firsthand. Despite how difficult it was, I think that it allowed me to learn things that might have taken me a decade to learn in an organic timeline. It's sort of like hyper condensing pain and suffering into a 2.5-year span so that you could, in my case, come out of it and use what you've learned and apply it properly, but the concept was, because it was like when I worked under you, I was always looking for a mentor, right? We can all agree that you need to have good mentors and advisors in your life.
I want to say something there real quick. Don't mean to interrupt you, Ishan, but that's something that I think you learned earlier than most.
Definitely.
I learned that eventually, but I didn't learn that lesson until I was well into my 30s, frankly.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of the reason why, like you said, you were the youngest advisor.
Mm-hmm.
You were one of the youngest award winner for this latest award, is because you learn from mentors how to cut. Well, they teach you from their mistakes, and you don't have to repeat those.
Exactly.
Right?
It's so true, and it it had led me far. Like I had a sensei when I was a kid, so very much, my personality type, especially back then.
Right.
Hyperactive, hungry,
Very.
super like ADD, almost kind of like an uncontrollable fire, right? And it was really hard to refine that and discipline that. So that's where the mentors and the advisors were so valuable, because they would say, look, you're going to make these mistakes if you go this way. Go ahead, go trip and fall, bruise your knee, you'll find out. And oftentimes I did, right? Even though I was told that you always do. But, having that triangulation of information really made it so much better, because if I did make a mistake, I was able to learn from it faster and then eventually stop making some mistakes that were right in front of me and called out to me. So I kind of continued to seek that after you with Tom in the next venture. Now, I learned real quick that not all mentors are created equal and that the intention that a lot of people have doesn't always align with your own, right? And so not just him, but also the following two guys I worked with after that was kind of what I experienced was, all right, I came in super passionate. I wanted to work on this AI company. I had a trusted network of smart people that would come work for me, and leave school, right? Like get all the top students from these relative programs to work on this idea. And I realized that I was too young to realize at the time that was the power that they were seeking from me, because they couldn't do it on their own. But to me, it was sort of natural. So I didn't view it as something that was being taken advantage of at all at the time. But I went and worked, on the AI company. Like most startups, it obviously didn't work out. But I learned, I learned so much. I became, compared to how challenging and sort of crazy the work environment was there, and frankly toxic and hurtful sometimes, like everything else just seemed so simple and easy, when you're working on things with individuals who are not coming from that sort of Bushido approach, which I like and grew up on, but they're doing it with, the right intentions. So that venture led me to then how I was going to go back to school, because I was about to give up my scholarship. I was months away from losing it. And my now co-founder who worked with me through that venture, he worked on my team. He said, hey, online hearing aids are becoming a thing now. It's 2018 at the time. The FDA just announced it. The Trump administration just announced we have to make hearing aids over the counter. And that really is what leads to this next portion of the story.
Folks, I'm going to encourage you to stay tuned, because I think you're going to find this fascinating. And this is, of course, what led to the award that you won recently. So stay tuned in the next segment with more with Ishan Patel.
Stay tuned for more common sense from Ference. For more information, contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth. Want more information? Contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. Now back to the show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. This is Ference. If you want to reach me, you can do so at yourpersonalbank.com. Yes, you will reach me at yourpersonalbank.com. Well, we have a very special treat today with Ishan. We have him for the whole show. It's very exciting. He's a young man I got to know at the very beginning of his career. We worked together, in fact. It was pretty exciting. And he's gone on to great things already in his entrepreneurial career. Ishan, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me, Ference. It's great to be back here with you.
It's awesome. It's been a while since we caught up, and I thought this would be a lot of fun just to see what you've been doing, because we haven't chatted recently. I know you've been really busy.
Definitely.
So you were kind of sharing some of the ups and downs you had in different business ventures after you left college, some things about mentors. One thing I always like, if you remember, I used to share, hey, learning from somebody else's experience is the definition of wisdom.
Absolutely.
You can learn yourself the hard way. You'll learn the lesson, but it typically takes longer, or learn from somebody else's experience. But not all mentors, like you said, are created equal. So you got to be careful on that.
Definitely. I think trial and error is the way, though. It's always better, I believe, to put yourself out there, as intelligently as you can, of course. But it's always better to go for it versus give up, because you get nothing, and you're no better off just staying still in that sense. So.
Yeah, you lose 100% of the battles you don't fight, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a much better way to say it.
Exactly. Well, there you go. So you tried working with a couple of different outfits, like you said, and sounds like you took you were thinking about going back to college.
Yeah. So at that point, I was thinking about going back to college, and I have to kind of I want to be very transparent with the audience on my mental state, because I think a lot of people can probably relate to that piece, and a lot of entrepreneurs don't talk about it, right? You see the win on the other end, but nobody talks about all of the challenges, the trials and tribulations to get there. So at this point, I've come out of an extremely toxic work environment. I've been working like 16-hour days, 7 days a week. My skin is a bit gray, like I'm not even healthy at this point. And I realized that sacrifice wasn't worth it, because it's not worth the cost of your health and your happiness and your relationships and your life. That it never is. However, I also learned how to work extremely hard and work a little smarter, and gained a ton of entrepreneurial experience from the failures and the challenges that I went through. So I was really not wanting to go back to school, right? That was not where I wanted to be, but I knew that if I didn't go back, I'd lose my scholarship, and that I didn't have a better plan. So I thought, you know what? Let's try to advance myself in some way while I figure out what's next. Luckily, the universe had other plans for me. Zach comes to me and tells me, hey, this online hearing aid thing's probably going to be really big. I've got a friend and mentor who's actually starting an online hearing aid company. Do you want to come work for it? So at this time I said, absolutely. I'm dead broke, right? I have no degree. My friends are going on to become doctors, and I don't even have my bachelor's at this point. And I'm like, I need to pay rent, right? Because I haven't taken any money from anyone, and I'm certainly not going to. I'm not going to go to my parents and ask for anything. I made these decisions, and I wanted to take responsibility. And so I get a job working for $15 an hour, cleaning like the dirty earwax out of used hearing aids, basically. So not a glamorous start in the industry, but it made me become intimately familiar with the product, because I would clean the product, and then after it was all sanitized, I would test it. What went wrong? Why did they return it, right? So I started to really understand the products and realize, wait, this is a huge need, right? Some fun facts. There's 1 billion people in the world with hearing loss and growing. Okay. Yet 1 in 8 people on Earth have hearing loss, and if you're over 70, I think it's like 1 in 2.
Wow, that's a much bigger than I thought.
Yeah, so it's a massive market. And here's the next crazy stat: is that 80% of them don't wear hearing aids. So it's a global problem, crisis, really, health crisis, where 80% of the people that need help don't have a solution and are not wearing hearing aids. I can't name any product, even if as I look around this room or look at my phone keys, there's nothing in my life I can name where 80% of the world market doesn't engage with it. That'd be like the internet existing and 80% of the people not being connected. It's a crazy stat.
Sure.
So the opportunity there is massive, but I think what got me was, once I understood the product and the impact it could make, I started doing a little bit of customer service, right? Getting on the phones, talking to customers, because I became more knowledgeable. Then they said, hey, look, there's a sales opportunity. We know you have a sales background. We want to put you as the sales rep, where we'll put a phone number on the website, and if they call, it gets routed directly to you. And I was an army of one sitting in a chair, right? And I might have been one of the first guys ever to start selling hearing aids online.
Since you brought that up, I wanted to bring you back. We kind of skipped over. I remember we'd done a bunch of sales training working with us. And then you had a competition in college, I remember.
Yes, I did.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I had a couple of competitions. One of them was the ICSC, I think, the International Sales Competition. It was the biggest one in the world, I think.
Right.
And there's like some 64 universities globally come in. You've got people from Europe, from Germany. You've got people from Asia, and it's this massive competition. And I ended up going there and winning Rookie of the Year because it's very uncommon, I suppose, for sophomores to come to this competition. All of the people there were seniors in college. Also, they're all veterans, because typically to even qualify, you have to go through a regional competition, which I won. And so, again, I'm pretty much the youngest guy in the room, and I end up winning Rookie of the Year. And I think we got 3rd place in the world.
And I remember something you said to me after that competition, because I had a 5-step sales process that I would teach people.
Yep.
And you were using that in that competition?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I 100%. You taught me quite a bit about how to sell and how to communicate and how to add value. And I came in feeling just so prepared, because I thought, compared to teaching people about the personal bank, this really incredible concept that is not common knowledge. Right? Pitching ADP as a software for this competition isn't so hard.
No. And then the last part of that I thought was interesting. You said one of the judges came up to you and said, how did you come up with that one piece?
Yep. Yep, they did. So not only the judges come up to me and ask me that, and I explained that I had been taught it, right? My sales coach at the time, he wrote a book.
Really?
And in that book, he references all of the training like him and I did together because he taught me quite a few things.
Sure.
But I venture to guess that 5-step process is in that book, rewritten into some other form, but definitely the origin has come from you. So shout out to that as well. And now they're using that book to teach sales programs in universities now.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That was something I came up with from learning from a lot of different sources and piecing it together. So I can't say I came up with all of it myself.
Absolutely, yeah. There's no need to reinvent the wheel here. There's infinite wisdom out there, but
I tried to keep it simple. Stupid is all I say, but dial it down to keep it simple so people would understand it. It was effective and it worked. That's interesting.
Yeah, so that's fun. Yeah, that's a fun. And I actually competed in several competitions and pretty much won like all of them. And so they were pretty unhappy when I retired because I dropped out and didn't do my senior year because they were planning an entire national sales run around me, and we brought in sponsorship. I mean, we brought in 6 figures of sponsorship to the university from the top sales organizations like Salesforce, top software companies, even private jet companies were coming in to recruit our students, and people in my program that I built. So that's pretty cool. And my legacy at ASU, although I dropped out, it's close to my heart. I think that, if anything, that's what I'm the most proud of.
That's really awesome. And it's kind of ironic because it's not a complicated process.
No.
It's surprising that nobody else figured that out sooner.
Yeah,
no. Together, right?
I know. I think it's a combination, though, not to underscore. Yes, it's not a complicated process, but I think it takes a specific type of person to deliver it effectively. So I think that's where you and I, while I'm going to give massive credit to the hard work we put in, I think we were also a bit born with this personality type that we like to socialize, we like to communicate. Interpersonal interaction is our bread and butter and where we feel the happiest and the most fulfilled. Right. So for others, but that can actually absolutely be taught. And, there was just countless people coming through this program that were coming out just so capable. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Fun, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
That's a good throwback.
Yeah. Kind of fun. So back to the hearing aid.
Yep.
You're now.
So I'm 23 years old. I'm sitting in my underwear, on the phone in my house, getting up at 6 a.m. because phone call, we open the phone lines then, and pretty much working for 11 hours straight happily, because I couldn't get enough. As soon as we put that phone number on the website, first day I got a few calls. I had a 90% close rate. It was crazy, right? Second day, keeps growing. Within 3 weeks, I'm closing 20, 30 people a day for hearing aids. And at first they were only $249, and then we expanded our product offering up to $700. So my average close is well over $500 if you average order value. And it gets to a point where within a month, within 6 weeks, I am selling personally $20,000 to $23,000 of hearing aids a day, right? So I'm doing over $400K, about $450,000 in sales a month on just 5 days, because I'm not working 7 days a week, and I have somebody covering the weekends for me that I train personally. And I call the Hearing Loss Association, I guess I'm exposing myself now if they're listening to this, and ask them, the National Hearing Institute or one of the national associations, I ask them, hey, what are the top hearing aid sales guys in the world doing right now? And they're like, maybe $1 million a year in sales would be a top 1%er, but that's the best I've ever heard. And they're like, why? What are you doing? And I was like, I'm doing $450 a month. I'm doing $5 million a year pace right now. And they were like, who are you?
Right.
Who do you work for? What are you doing? And I just hung up the phone. I was like, oh no. Because we had really.
I might open a can of worms.
Yeah,
there.
we had caught lightning in a bottle, I guess, in that sense. And so I basically became the #1 hearing aid sales rep in the entire world. And so I personally closed and worked with over 1,000 people. And so needless to say, at 23, I became a true expert in at least the over-the-counter hearing aid products, the customer experience, what they're thinking, what their fears, hopes, and dreams are, and was able to take that to really push the company forward. So needless to say, I decided that summer not to go back to college, gave up the scholarship, dropped out because I was getting paid a 10% commission.
Sure.
So, closing $20,000 worth a day. So it was the craziest money I'd ever seen, and also was helping people while I was doing it. So I was like, oh my God, what could be better, right? Having a super impactful product that's bringing financial success into my life and into my family's life. I just couldn't be happier. So it was hard work, though. It was a grind. And that's where I think the first moment of understanding the difference between being a business owner, and being a worker, and being fulfilled and happy in my work for sure, but also recognizing that I couldn't scale past my time.
Right.
Like I could close, I could close $2,000 of hearing aids an hour, okay, and $2,000 to $2,500 an hour, and I could only work 11 hours in a day. I mean, there's just not more hours I'm going to be able to work.
Right. So
that was really a big lesson of mindset shift. And spoiler alert for the next segment is that things didn't actually end up working out with that company long term. But again, next loss leads to the next victory. So
we're going to leave at that for the next segment. I'm going to encourage you to stay tuned. I think most of you will find this quite interesting and fascinating. Thank you, Ishan, for sharing your story. So strongly encourage you to stay tuned in the next segment. Don't miss it.
Stay tuned for more common sense from Ference. For more information, contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth. Want more information? Contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. Now back to the show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. This is Ference, and if you want to contact me, you can do so at yourpersonalbank.com. Yes, you will reach me. It's yourpersonalbank.com. We are in for a treat today. If you have not heard the first part of this show, I've been interviewing Ishan Patel. He's got a fascinating story. I really encourage you to go back to our website at yourpersonalbank.com. You can listen to this or any of the previous recorded shows anytime you want, or go to our app, Your Personal Bank, and listen to what Ishan had to share, because we're going to get into the fun part of the story. Well, first of all, Ishan, welcome back.
Yes, no, thank you for having me. I'm having a great time.
That's awesome. So you were sharing last segment, you were selling hearing aids like crazy.
Yep.
Then what happened?
So I'm on top of the world, right? Just to be transparent about it, I was making like $2,000 a day. So I went from dead broke, no degree, in debt, to bringing in like $10,000 a week,
Right.
For about 12, 13 weeks straight. I was helping so many people. I was getting calls, people in tears about how these hearing aids changed their life. And I was like, what could be better than this? I'd always set a goal for myself. I remember when we first met, you said, look, you got to have goals, financial goals.
Right.
You don't talk about money. You don't learn about money. You're not going to ever make money. And so I remember telling you back then, my dream was to make about $500,000 a year, because I thought at that point, and especially at that time, with inflation being where it was back then, that was enough to live the lifestyle I wanted, take care of my family, and it's good. It's good money. And at this point, I'm 23. I've done it. I'm pacing that $500K a year. And I remember thinking like, wow, when you really set those goals and go for it. I mean, it took me years, obviously. At this point, I dropped out of school when I was 20. Now I'm 23. So it took me 3 years to get to there, which is really short when you consider the span of life. And I'm on top of the world. I'm thinking, but I'm also not recognizing at the time how taxing the work is, and how really I'm trading my time for money. And I've hit the relative ceiling of how much I could do that. Like I couldn't really boost my income much more than that, although I was expanding it with the greater team I was running. It just became really taxing. And so, but needless to say, I was very happy with where I was, and I dropped out of school completely, gave up my scholarship and everything. Then I find out literally like 30 days after I drop out of school, and like that ship has sailed, the opportunity is gone, that the founder of this company has decided to take my 1,000 converted calls, feed it to a call center in the Philippines, train up a bunch of reps, and hire them all to replace me. I get notified Sunday night, Monday morning at midnight, that at 7 a.m. My pay and volume is going to be cut by 90%. And so, needless to say,
been there, done that.
Yep.
Experienced that myself.
Yeah, needless to say, my whole world came crashing down real quick.
Right.
Like, yeah, I was making good money, but I hadn't been making it for that long, right? I had made about 6 figures, 130 grand in that summer, which is great money for a summer.
Sure.
But I had spent a good little chunk of it too, right? Every weekend I was going to the clubs. I was 23 years old, spending a couple $1,000s a week to try to let loose and make it feel like it was all worth something. Because I was working like 60 hours a week, 50, 60 hours a week. And while from an hour perspective, I had worked much more in my previous AI thing, it was really taxing because it was just nonstop, back-to-back calls, the whole day. So it takes a lot out of you. And I quit, kind of obviously, I think, which is silly though, because if I had stayed, I still would have been making like $6,000 to $8,000 a month, which at that age was more than enough to cover my bills.
Sure.
Luckily I hadn't raised my cost of living, much more because I was in an apartment, and I had just one car, like that's it. So it was not just my pride, it was my goals in life. I was like, okay, this no longer aligns with my goals. I'm not going to be able to have the impact and have the life I want here. And also, I didn't appreciate the way it was done at all.
90% pay cuts kind of hurt.
Yeah, those are tough, and I wasn't even told that it was happening. Like,
Sure.
I got 7 hours of notice, not 2 weeks.
Right.
So I quit, and I thought, you know what? I'm sick of, I always work for other people. Many of them, not all, not you, used me to advance their companies. I hit all the goals that I set, and then I'm left here like with nothing, right? And so I tried to start my own e-commerce companies with my friend who got me into the company. He left that same company a few months later. Same situation for him. He had been promised something, he had hit his goals, and then it was taken away from him. So just kind of a common theme there, I think, in the way
that's real common in the sales world.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Not all people like to do ethical business, but it's, again, the School of Hard Knocks is here to teach me something really, really important. And so at this point, I have now lost my life path for the second time. Okay, this time I'm left with a little money, which is good. But as we fast forward in the story, you'll find out that it didn't matter much. And I'm with my co-founder Zach, and we say, okay, it's time to build some e-commerce businesses, because this was an e-commerce hearing aid business. We thought, why don't we build some others? So needless to say, first of all, I invested is a strong word. I'm holding up air quotes. You can't see it, but I invested some of that money in crypto in a hedge fund, total scam. So lost like 30, 40 grand there in one fell swoop. Learned real quick the difference between legitimate financial investments, like the one you are talking about on this show, and illegitimate ones, which is another great lesson.
Yep.
So I'm left with about 60 grand, let's say, in cash, and I've got no income. It costs thousands to test these businesses at a time, and I've basically just burned through everything I have and more trying to start businesses. Ultimately, after starting like 7 or 8 different e-commerce businesses, we had a magnetic phone charger, before that became a thing. I was even doing a credit repair company as a service at one point. Just really selling solar. That was our most successful little venture at the time, because that was my bread and butter, right? More of the sales side of things. But none of them really lasted, and none of them were really fulfilling in what I really wanted. And I couldn't get away from the hearing aid concept. So ultimately we went back to trying to start a hearing aid company, but we only had the experience of that first one. So it was modeled off of it, but we learned a lot of things we wanted to do differently, right?
Sure.
So we start our first hearing aid company, and we scale within a year to about 400, 500K a month. So we do a few million in revenue, which is a big jump, right, from where I've been before.
Sure.
But the difference is now I'm learning the difference between revenue and profit, because before, commissions are just pure profit, right?
For you.
Yes, for me.
Right.
And I'm learning now that, okay, cash flow does not equal profit. And that just because the company is positively cash flowing, it does not mean the company is profitable.
Right.
And with the return window, being a staggered like 45 to 90 days, depending on what we were testing at the time, you don't really see the impact of, okay, you've converted this customer, and you brought money in the door. How much is going to go out the door?
Right.
What's the return rate? What's the expenses? What's the OpEx? I don't know any of this stuff, right? I'm 24 years old at this point, okay? And I'm running my own business that's doing millions. And everyone's looking at it thinking, this is crazy, this has potential. Most people can never bring in that kind of revenue. And we got there very quickly, from 0 to like 400, 500K a month within a year.
But you can't grow too quick.
Yeah, it's not just growing too quick, actually.
Yep.
It's just not knowing that we're unprofitable.
Right.
Like, we were barely profitable. We thought we were profitable.
Right.
We really weren't. And so what was I doing to grow the business? I was taking out loans, merchant cash advances, the worst kind of loan for anyone listening.
Yes.
The worst kind.
Those are horrible.
Yeah, super high. And they're
And by the way, I get called every week for one of those.
I got, not even exaggerating, I got 16 calls this morning.
I believe it.
It's endless spam from 5 years ago. You know what I mean? So,
don't take that.
Yeah.
I had a guy not too long ago, he was telling me 1%. I'm like, great, I'm on board. What do we need to do? And then as we talked a little bit, oh, it's 1% a month. I said, oh, forget it.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. They like to be a little bit shady in their business. So, but lo and behold, I'm a 24-year-old kid, and fast forward through this company, I've got $500,000 in debt now. Okay, so I've done millions in revenue. I've got $500K in debt between my credit cards and my lines of credit. Lines of credit, not even my merchant cash advances, which, I mean, the interest you're paying on that is insane. You know,
it's too bad we weren't talking then.
I know.
Because I started my first business when I was 24.
Yeah, I know. It would have been helpful, right?
Right.
But I was just so heads down, and
right.
every time we run into each other, I'm like, oh, we got to sit down and connect, because there's just, first of all, you're a big part of my origin story, right? Like, I started ultimately with you.
Right.
And so it just only would be natural that we kind of come back and touch base. So basically this segment of the story is, now I've lost all my money for the second time. Okay? Because I'm $500K in debt, and guess what happens? COVID.
Yep.
Supply chains frozen. Global pandemic.
Yep.
Cannot get any product. Cannot deliver on any of these sales now all of a sudden. And chargebacks, returns start to come in. I went bust in 6 weeks. I watched hundreds of thousands of dollars in my bank account, in the company bank account, go to zero, go to negative $500K.
And you had owed interest on that stuff too.
Oh, yeah. And so now I'm 24 years old, the CEO of nothing. I've not just lost all my money again, I am literally negative $500K in the hole. I have debt collectors coming to my mom's house looking for me because I'm, laying low, trying to figure out how I'm going to do this, because my number one priority was paying all the customers, which is what we did, which is what drove us further into debt, obviously.
Right.
Because no matter what, at the end of the day, ethical business is the only way I will ever operate. I did not file bankruptcy, which I could have done to escape all of that debt, but I just wouldn't do it. I was like, nope, every single one of these people are getting their money
that's
back.
something else you and I have in common.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it,
Right.
Now I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's a business option that a lot of people take, right?
Right.
But for the type of person I wanted to be and the life I wanted to live,
it's worth it.
I refused.
Good.
So basically now now we're getting into this next section, we'll get into the real story and the birth of Audie and Hearing and how all this worked out, is that I'm negative $500K. Debt collectors are coming to my mom's house. I'm crying myself to sleep every night. Like, I am nauseous. I can't keep food down. My life is effectively over. I've got no degree, no career path, negative $500,000 in money in net worth, which is a staggering amount for a 24-year-old to amass in debt. It was almost impressive, honestly.
Right.
And I have no idea what I'm going to do with my life. And I think that's probably a good spot to stop, because the next part is where things get really crazy.
Folks, if you've been listening, I'm sure you're enjoying this story, and you can learn a lot of valuable lessons from Ishan's story and his life experience. And I'm hoping that somebody's listening, maybe in the same boat that you are, or were at that point, I should say, Ishan. And I'm going to encourage you to stay tuned in the next segment. He's going to share a story, but then I'm going to ask them, if you were there, what would you do, Ishan? Because I know there's somebody listening right now that is in that same boat you just described. So stay tuned in the next segment. Don't miss it.
Stay tuned for more common sense from Ference. For more information, contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show with Ference Toth. Want more information? Contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. Now back to the show with Ference Toth.
Welcome back to the Your Personal Bank Show. This is Ference. If you want to reach me, you can do so at yourpersonalbank.com. Yes, you will reach me. It's yourpersonalbank.com. Well, we've had an amazing show today, and we got one segment left with Ishan. If you've missed the previous segments, I can't stress enough, go to yourpersonalbank.com and listen to this or any of the previously recorded show or the app because Ishan, you've had a tremendous story. You've done an awesome job sharing it. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, no, I'm super glad to be here. And for anyone who might be joining now, the cliff notes are, I dropped out of school at 20, started an AI company, failed miserably, then went to go work for a hearing aid company, and then ultimately got my pay cut by 90% overnight. So had to leave
after being
that.
the top salesperson in the world.
After being the top hearing aid sales rep literally in the entire world at the time.
Right.
And then decided to start my own companies, tried a bunch of them, all of them failed, burned through all the money I had made from the hearing aid gig, and then finally started my own hearing aid company. And then at that point, we had done a few million in revenue. I had taken a ton of debt on, hundreds of thousands, about $500,000 worth. And then COVID hit, and we go bust in 6 weeks. So to pick up from where I left off, I'm now 24 years old, negative $500K in debt. Debt collectors are looking for me, going to my mom's house, coming to my apartment. My girlfriend, now wife, Maddie, is answering the door.
Congratulations,
thank
by
you,
the way.
for me. And I have no idea what I'm going to do. I'm feeling depressed. I'm scared more than anything, literally unable to sleep really or eat. And I feel that there might be somebody listening right now who's going through the same thing, has gone through the same thing, or might be about to go through the same thing. And I just want to let you know that there is more than light at the end of the tunnel. Those were the moments that I'm ultimately made of now. And those were the lessons that made me who I am today. And if I had never experienced those things, I would never have the strength or the experience I have today. So I'm actually, in hindsight, extremely grateful they occurred and would not trade any of it for anything.
It just sucks going through it.
Yeah. And just know, if you're listening and you're going through it, congratulations. That means you're on your way. You're going the right way. Because I knew there was something there with this hearing aid thing. Otherwise, I wouldn't have pursued it so hard. You may know there's something there with whatever you're looking at. Otherwise, you wouldn't be so passionate about it. And at the end of the day, your gut and that passion is all that matters. So basically, at this point, it's March of 2020, okay? I'm negative 500K. We decide, I get a third co-founder who's been thinking, he had a successful e-commerce model selling kind of like fad products, right? Like the fidget spinner type things at the time. But they would always kind of last for 3-4 months and then die out. And he'd be able to build a good little business and make good money, and then it would die out. And he thought, what if we applied that model to your hearing aid business? And what would happen then? And so the question wasn't how much can we sell the hearing aids for? It was how little can we sell the hearing aids for, and how many people can we reach as a result? And this is when the mindset shifted from, look, we're trying to make a successful business that just makes money, to how do we help the most number of people possible? And if we do that, everything else should work out if we reverse engineer from there. So the concept was we wanted to launch the first $99 hearing aid in the world. It had never been done. So I had the supplier relationships from the previous stuff. We had everything going. So we whipped up, literally, the three of us whipped up a company in a weekend. Zach and Dylan built the website, Shopify backend infrastructure. I mean, it was our bread and butter at this point. We had done 10 of them, right? Mm-hmm. So in 72 hours, we whipped up our brand, now Audion Hearing, and we launched the first $99 hearing aid. We do $1 million in sales profitably this time in 50 days. Within 90 days, we are doing $1 million a month in revenue. That's awesome. The first 9 months of the business, we did $12 million in revenue. And needless to say, my life changed, right?
Right.
It did take me a couple years to pay off that debt because it was still quite substantial. Right. And I had to go on payment plans. I had to get sued and then settle. So that's also super fun. Congrats if you're getting sued. That means you're a real business owner now.
I had the president of of one of the major business organizations I remember saying to him, of the Chamber of Commerce, and I said I was upset because I was getting sued by somebody. This is many years ago. And he said, congratulations. He said the same thing. That means you're actually doing something.
Yep. Yeah. If you're disrupting or trying to disrupt, typically there's some lawsuits on that path, But again, we were able to handle it, to pay the debt, settle it all off, painfully so, but over the course of 2.5 years, paid every single penny back and build Audion Hearing. So Audion became a kind of an immediate phenomena because it changed the way that people thought about hearing care. Now you've got people that can access hearing care for as low as $99. Obviously, we had better products we continue to develop and launch. And ultimately, I'm actually the inventor and designer now on our newest product line's patent. We invented the lowest cost, highest quality hearing aids in the world. And now, today, we are the number one volume selling over-the-counter hearing aid company on planet Earth.
Wow.
Right?
Congratulations.
Thank you. We bootstrapped this company from a garage. We started it with $0 of funding. Okay? We will do almost 90 million this year in revenue, and we're already run rating well over 100 million for next year. So, and growing fast. Like, we're 12 months from now, that'll be 200 run rate, with everything we've got lined up. And I mean, it has just been insane. We have almost 1 million customers now nationwide. That's almost 1 million lives changed and impacted. The number of stories I go from 1,000 people that I got to personally talk to now hundreds and hundreds of thousands that we've helped, and the stories that I've heard. I mean, it literally like brings tears to my eyes every time I think about it, because now I've been able to build something with the philosophies that I want to embody. Right? I'm not working for somebody who's going to take advantage of me and use me. I'm able to. Right. I realized that if the mentor I was looking for, I wanted to become that person for other people.
Right.
Rather than rely on somebody else to bring that out in me. And so that's ultimately what I did when building Audion. We bootstrapped the company. We've given a significant amount of equity away to all the founding team members who have built this dream with us from literally from a garage. So it's now, to paint the picture, it's July of 2020. Mm-hmm. You probably remember that summer. Oh, yeah. 118 degrees outside. The freaking asphalt is melting, right? I'm in a garage. And we're selling more than 10,000 hearing aids a month at this point. And we are manually fulfilling every single one of those orders ourselves out of a residential garage in Tempe, Arizona. So we have trucks coming up, pallets being offloaded. Everyone thinks we're drug dealers. It's awesome. Because we don't tell, what do you do? Import, export. We really wanted to, first of all, we caught lightning in a bottle. We didn't want to tell anybody about it. Right. We wanted to just do our work, keep our heads down. But second of all, it was really funny to perpetrate the drug dealer narrative, because it literally, why? How could you explain just pallets of product coming in to this residential net? And
That's funny.
We insulated the garage. Okay. It was 118 degrees outside. We put 2 industrial AC units in there, but we could not get the garage below 90 degrees because the garage had door and the walls had little holes in them through which it was just impossible. So I basically built and operated my own sweatshop for myself. I'm in there literally t-shirt off, just sweating bullets, just fulfilling with my team in there, by day fulfilling, by night building the business, building out the back end operation. And it's a team of 5, all just kids in their low 20s with a dream. And we built it from that garage operation to now, we're selling, you go from saying $10,000 or 10,000 hearing aids a month to more than 10,000 hearing aids a week. Right. And so, and just outpacing everybody else in the business, because we just did it differently. And I stuck with that dream. I fought hard for it. I fought like hell. I lost all my money 3 times. By the way, in this journey with Audion, there's an instance where we have an unprofitable quarter and realize we need to reposition this business and redo it. We cut by 40% from 2021 to 2022. Mm-hmm. We did 20 million. We did 12 million that first year in 2020. We did 20 million in 2021. We cut down to, again, 12, 13 million in 2022. But that whole time is product market fit and exploration phase. We figure it out. We know the FDA is going to rule. The FDA finally passes the law that OTC hearing aids are legalized, formally giving our industry a rule book to play by. Before it was the Wild West. Right. And we quickly go to develop the first $99 OTC hearing aid. We had the first $99 hearing device. Now it's the first $99 OTC hearing aid the world has ever seen.
For those that don't know, that's over the counter.
Yeah, over the counter, exactly. Right. And so we basically, I end up going to Walmart. I pitch Walmart in their headquarters. We become the first hearing aid company in history to launch nationwide in retail. Wow. They launched us in over 4,000 doors day one. Wow. We made history that day. We then went on we were the first sub $100 over-the-counter hearing aid in the world. We made history with that. That's another world record we have. And the third was that we became the highest volume selling in the world. So Audion has done 3 things that no other company in history have done, and that's something I'm really proud of because of just the impact that has. So that's sort of the fast forward to today. We're building the business. We're growing at lightning speed, and we're just getting started.
And that's why you won the Entrepreneur of the Year award.
Exactly. So
awesome.
a few people heard this story. Forbes magazine talked about it a little bit. Entrepreneur magazine, I'm published in the November edition, which is a huge honor, and then the Entrepreneur of the Year. So it's kind of just been sort of one thing after another, and we're just getting started.
That's awesome. Well, Ishan, really appreciate you coming in and sharing your story with us today. And like I said, I think you've probably encouraged some folks too. My last question for you before we have to go. We started early on together. That's awesome. You've gone on to great things. Based on your experience so far, if somebody was dealing with some of the same stuff you were, like you said, what would you recommend to them? A young entrepreneur getting started.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that the only way out is through. So recognize that no matter what you want to do, no matter what you want to build in life, the things that are the most worth doing sometimes are the hardest. So all of those failures I had, you realize if you zoom in on any of those, you would have looked at me, and on paper, I was a total loser, right? Both professionally and emotionally at a lot of times. And you could have counted me out at any one of those moments. And I was told, by the way, every step of the way, give up, go back to school, get a job, be safe, you're smart. You could go become a doctor. What are you doing with your life? Right. You're wasting your talent.
Right.
And I knew that I had to believe in myself, even when I felt like I couldn't anymore. So I would tell you that above all else, believe in yourself and who you are. It doesn't matter what you do. I never knew I'd be in hearing aids. Come on. That's not the point. The point is that I knew who I wanted to be, and I fought for it. And every single failure brought me forward. And I am still just another set of failures away from my next win. And believe me, I'm still making a lot of mistakes, and the numbers are a hell of a lot bigger in the mistakes that I'm making right now. Even that $500,000 mistake back in the day doesn't seem so bad compared to some turns I've had to make right now with the business, right? So that's the message I would have for any listener, is that you have to push through. You have to keep going. And if you have someone in your life that makes you think that and believe that in yourself, double down on that person and double down on yourself.
That's really awesome. Ishan, sharing your story today has been awesome with us. If somebody wanted to contact you, what would be the best way to do so?
I would say reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can just look me up, Ishan Patel, Ishan Patel. And then Audion Hearing is the name of our hearing aid company, which is AUDIEN Hearing. So audionhearing.com. You can check out our website if you want to know a little bit more about what we built here. And if you look up Ishan Patel or Audion Hearing on LinkedIn, you should be able to find me pretty quickly.
And then for my pitch, we're going to finish up, as Ishan shared. He started a personal bank when he was 18 years old, folks.
Absolutely. Been funding that personal bank for 10 years now.
Yeah, and it just keeps getting better, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So from a financial standpoint, if you're in that world, you might want to contact me at yourpersonalbank.com to learn more. Ishan, thank you for joining us again today. Like I said, it was really fun. I'm going to really encourage you to stay tuned to the next week's show. And as long as it's on our money, in God we trust.
Listen Tuesdays at noon and Saturdays at 1 to the Your Personal Bank Show for more information. Contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. That's 866-268-4422. This show is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information. The presenter and guests of this program do not engage in legal, accounting, or tax advice. Professional advice regarding your situation should be sought if required. Some products discussed may have limitations and not be available in all states. Excessive unpaid loans may affect performance. Distributions may become taxable if not managed properly. Replacements may not be suitable for everyone. There may be charges when replacing coverage. Dividend rates and bank line of credit rates may change. For current rates, contact Ference at 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com. Again, that's 866-268-4422 or yourpersonalbank.com.